Nor's variety store at one time was on the north side of Main Street, and then I suppose they bought the store building they had some for many years. I think next on the west of Sonic's department store was a paint store, and Gobblemans were the owners of it. Well, there have been so many changes that it's just hard to remember.
Yeah, so there's 3 blocks of businesses plus some on the side streets too.
I declare that in the block between 5th and 6th, on the north side about the middle, I just know there was the electric company, and they went in the corner of the building, but others don't agree with me.
And so that was on a corner, you think?
No, it was in the middle of the block.
Okay, but you entered, have that.
At the corner.
We'll have to look at some old pictures, perhaps we can find that.
Of course, Fricky Drugstore was on 6th Street between Main and the corner of the alley. I mean, where, of course, I didn't know it because the Methodist Church that's existing now was there before I was born, probably. But I know the store building that was next to the alley on the north side was the Methodist Church originally.
Do you think they began their church there, and then?
I'm not sure. It probably was.
And you attended a church, I think, while you were growing up and throughout your life here. What church was that?
Well, it was called Independent Church of Christ. And
where was it located to begin with, that you first recall going to church?
it was, I'm not sure if that is I can't think of the Clinton Street,
Okay.
I think. I know south of the street there was Clinton, I believe, and then this was north. And then it merged with the Wesleyan Methodist Church, which eventually became the Wesleyan Church.
I know where you mean. That church is, of that building, that street, excuse me, is a dead-end street, isn't
Yes.
it?
And yes, Carl works at the end of it. And
South 10th Street.
Yeah, I think.
yes, it was South 10th, yes.
Right. Clinton, right, would be, if you go south, when it starts again, yeah, that is,
Oh,
or it might not be. Yeah.
There,
you're right.
Clinton, it might be,
Not sure.
but we know, right, but
I don't remember I don't think it was there when I was alive even, but there was a Baptist church there on the south side of that street where the houses are now. I'm not sure just where it was located, but it was south of that street coming up from Casey's. If you know where I mean.
South of the street. Well, that building is still there. I don't know if they still hold services in that. In that, what was the Wesleyan where you always attended church
Yes.
for many years?
Well, I think they have services there. They don't have a minister right now. And they don't know what to do with their building.
So that was your church for most of your life, right?
Yes.
Well, in our last session, we talked about your years teaching school, how you began teaching in rural schools, and you taught in rural schools, and from Class 1 district schools from about 1940
Yeah.
until,
Well, actually, the Avery School was a Class 1, but it was a large Class 1. And I had taught 5 years before that at a Class 1 in north part of Omaha. Those two were the largest
Right.
schools, and they were Class 1s.
so when was your last year of teaching? Can you tell us about the change you made then in your
Well,
career?
I had taught 1 year at Avery and started another year when Mr. Behrens, the county superintendent, retired. And I sort of reluctant about applying for the job because I thought I didn't have enough credits for the certificate I needed. And Clara Becker just insisted that I must apply for that school. And I said, well, I don't think I can qualify. So one morning I got to school early and called out to the University of Omaha and told him my situation and said, would you recommend me for the certificate? Oh yes, immediately, he said. So I had no excuse but what to apply for. I was appointed December 1st of 1960 to the Cass County Superintendents of Schools.
And this was a midterm, since that was an elective office, but you did
Yes.
not have to run for office the first time, right?
Right. I think I had 2 years on. I think I was elected then the next 2 years.
And you served as county superintendent of schools until when?
Well, until the legislature decided they no longer needed the county superintendents, which was June 1 of 2000. And it lacked about 6 months of being 40 years.
And that, I'm sure was a record as number of years for one person as county superintendent of schools.
Yes, I think that Alpha Peterson was the next longest, I believe, because she was in the office for 22 years. And I always had, during the time I was superintendent, I had a goal that I wanted to be there longer than Alpha Peterson was. And it seemed like the first 22 years went quite slow. But boy, the next several years really sailed by.
How many districts were there in Cass County when you began as
There were
superintendent?
46 districts, separate districts, including the town schools. And then we ended up with none finally.
No class one.
No class ones, I mean. I shouldn't have said it.
What were the different classes at that time? Class one, I think we talked about last time, was it K through 8?
Case, yes.
Or could be K through 8.
That was the class ones. Class twos were high school and grade school, but let's see, I can't remember exactly.
Was population a factor?
Yes, okay.
And then class 3 schools
That
were,
was the high school and grade school, but with more residents. I think that's where it was, because
so the class 3 schools in Cass County would have been Plattsmouth,
Plattsmouth and Louisville and Whipping Water. Of course, then later, Conestoga became a class 3, I believe. But Murdoch and Elmwood were class 2s because of the population. I mean, that made the difference there.
you said there were 46?
46.
46. Now, there were at one time, or through the years, there had been a total of about how many districts?
Well, I think the last number that was given to a new district was 105, and it was a combination of 2 rural schools, and they moved one of the schoolhouses down on Highway 34, and it was numbered 105.
And what happened to that school building?
Well, the district was dissolved and became a part of the town schools surrounding, and it had been moved once because it was one of the 2 schools that merged and formed 105. And it was moved from there, from the highway, onto the Cass County Fairgrounds, and was there for many years. And then it was sold and moved down to Avoca somewhere down that area.
What was the purpose of the school building at the fairgrounds?
Well, it held the school exhibit during the time that